I'm going to ask you some questions now, and I would like for you to write them down and reflect on them before you move on to the second fetter. And the first question is, what is reality right now? How do you know what is reality right now? So what is reality and what is fantasy or imagination? How do you know the difference? Look into the experience of what is reality and what is fantasy. How did you use to emphasize your sense of self in order to be in the world? So how did you use to be in the world and emphasize that sense of self? How did you use to identify? How was your selfing in comparison with how it is now? How did you use to believe you were? And how did you discover that you weren't? So what experiences did you have to get you to that point of clarity where you realized that who you thought you were, you weren't? How did that happen for you? Did you have to create an ego or a sense of self in order to dissolve it? Or was the ego already present? And this one is a really good question to realize how your attachment is to different things. And again, it's something which we're circling back to the answers of these questions in Fetters further down the line. And that's why it's a really good idea to really sit down and answer these questions for yourself. So, did you have a well-established ego or did you have to create that in order to look at childhood trauma, for example? Like what I just talked about with flow, that it might be an idea if you have been completely obliviated by a narcissist, then it is an idea to create a strong ego where you have strong boundaries. And it's like, a firm, thou shalt not pass, I'm standing here, I am standing here. You need to build that ego with clear boundaries before you can dissolve it. So did you have the ego or did you have to create an ego in order to dissolve it? How did you realize that expectations are always an indication of victimhood? And this, oh my God, this is such a big one. Well, if you're ever at a dinner party and you're sitting, with the person next to you, you can always ask this question, this always fires up a good debate, How did you realize that every expectation you have is a part of you being a victim? But seriously, it's really, really good question. It's a really good question. It's very, very good to become aware of. That every time you expect something to happen, you're placing yourself as a victim because it won't happen. I mean, all the things that we think is going to happen, how many of those things are actually happening? You can expect a lot of things and you get so disappointed every single time because you're a victim. You placed yourself as a victim. And the next one is also great for a dinner table. The question is, how did you realize that everything you perceive in others can never be anything but a projection of your own story based on your own assumptions? I mean, that's a good one too. I'm going to talk more about that in the next Fetter. I'm circling back to this one in the Fetter about doubt. Because we have this bubble of reality around us, the way that we perceive the world. And what we basically do is just mirror, we project what we see in us onto others. So if you're not completely clear on this one yet, it's fine. It's fine. I'm circling back to this one in the next Fetter, because this one is a huge one as a foundation when it comes to doubt. So if you have doubt about your process or doubt about anything, basically, this one it's one of the key cornerstones about doubt. Oh, and this one is really good. This one is really good too. especially for everybody who's in a relationship. How did you realize that they are always right? um, well, our minds and our egos are so deluded, so deluded. When a person comes and tells you, but this is how the world is, how did you realize that that is true? That is how their world is. And you cannot change it, and you're not supposed to change it. So every time you are in a discussion with somebody and you become aware of what you're actually doing right now, you're literally in a discussion. I mean, how pointless is that? You're literally in a debate, or you're literally in a discussion and you want to be right. Take a breather, take a step back, and then see if you can get to the point where you go, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. And they are right. An opinion can never be true. An opinion can never be true. It can only be true to you, which means that your opinion is true to you, their opinion is true to them. So whatever they say, whatever they perceive as their reality, that is what they perceive as their reality. There's no discussion, there's no debate, it's just how they perceive it. They're absolutely right. You can end every single argument, every single family feud, every single debate, every single that happens in you by just saying, you know what? You're absolutely right. And truly mean it. Not be sarcastic. Don't do that. Truly, truly mean it. What was your biggest selfing delusion? This is one that if you're in a group, if you meet with friends and you're doing the Fetter work together, this is one, I mean, you can take a full week and work on this question alone. What was the biggest selfing delusion? Because what we have as the biggest selfing delusion is like the foundation of, oh my goodness, everything. I believe the world is a kind and loving place. Oh, when you realize it's not, oh my goodness, And that's why it's so important to have guides or to have good friends, to have a group. Again, cannot emphasize it enough. Vince's group is great. Really, really, really great. And talk about these things, because it realizing, I know that realizing that it's all just thought, that's not traumatic because it has never been anything but just thought. But that delusion that you have shaped your entire life upon, realizing that can be like punch to the stomach. So really, really look into this. Really reflect on this. And there's nothing but liberation on the other side. I mean, there's nothing but freedom and liberation when you realize it. There's nothing to. There might be a lot of people that sit and watch this and go like, "What's she on about?" There's no trauma. There's no nothing. I know. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. It's still painful. It's still a lot. It's still things that can keep us awake at night. Even though we know it's just mind-made. Yeah. So this one is a question that's good to reflect on and to talk with a good friend about. How did you realize nothing anyone says about you is about you? And this is a big one too. Whenever you're in a fight, in a discussion, whenever Janice is annoying in the office, whenever people talk about you behind your back, all of that, I'm going to circle back to it in the next Fetter when we talk about doubt, because it's part of the bubble of reality and it's part of that delusion that we have. So if you're already there where you completely know in you that whatever anybody says about you, it cannot be about you. It can only be about them. Just like whatever opinion you hold about anything, it can never be about anybody else and can only be about you. If you're already there and you already realized, then reflect on that. Because it's like the kaleidoscope. There's a lot of different twists and turns on this one. What was the topic of the first delusion you experienced unconditional acceptance towards. And this is one of the things that I absolutely love with the Fetter work. It is that creating space to what is, holding space, creating that unconditional acceptance to what is. It's there anyway, whatever lie you told yourself, it's fine. It's completely fine. And if you cannot accept that this is how it is, then accept that you cannot accept it to be what it is, So what was the biggest topic? The first delusion that you experienced that unconditional acceptance towards. And the first thing that you really experience that with, it's very important to notice that, to really create, make something out of it, because you can use that as a template, as a copy paste for all other topics for the rest of your Fetter work. And the last question, how did you realize that your delusion wasn't significant at all? That's a great one too. And also, I would recommend you, if you're sitting, at the dinner table, feel free to ask that question, out in the open. Yeah. So that was it, my friend. I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. And I hope you're ready to move on with doubt. If you need to circle back to some of the lessons in the first Fetter about identification at any point, then just do that. It's not, don't look at it like first, second, third, and there's, smaller and a higher step and more and better. It's not like that at all. It's a circular wave movement, like cloud formations, like waves in the ocean. And it is a process. It is a process. There's nothing linear about this at all. The only linear is just that we call it a linear number. It's not that one is more important than the other. A lot of realizations will happen like that. And if you at any point need to revisit the lessons that you have had in the first Fetter, then just do that. And then otherwise, see you in the second Fetter. Thank you. I want to thank everyone that are showing your appreciation of the Awakening curriculum by buying me a cup of tea and becoming members of the YouTube channel. I truly appreciate that gesture. It means so much to me, and it also makes it possible to keep the channel and the homepage free from paid promotion and all that stuff. So thank you so much. And if you're new to the channel, then you find the full Awakening curriculum either on the YouTube channel or on my homepage, themore.uk. The Awakening curriculum is a free resource for you to use the Fetter work in resolving the effects of trauma and integrating insights of non-self and non-duality into your daily life and become awake.